You didn't show up Tuesday? No. What's your name? What's your name? Me? No. Willard? Willard. Got a doppelganger out there, I guess. So the college, they made a mistake and only put me on Tuesdays, or Thursdays. And I said Thursday, Friday, so I thought their class met on Thursdays and Fridays for some reason. So that's kind of odd, but they have some really odd classes, like late start classes. And some really, and I was like, okay, Thursday, Friday, that's fine. And they're like, no, it's Tuesday and Thursday, and then you can also come for another class on Friday. Did you mind that? No, I don't mind, but it would have been nice to actually know that was the case. So, yeah, I guess you're allowed one mistake. That's the same with you guys. One mistake, and that's it. So what we were going to do on Tuesday, which since that was the first day, I had plans for today because I thought today was the first day. We were going to do 5-minute interviews and then have you guys write an introduction to your partner. But for time, because we're only here 16 weeks and it's only an hour and 12 minutes. For time purposes, what I usually do with that is have you turn that in, and that becomes like your first writing sample for me. And I chose to go ahead and eliminate that because I would rather you guys have all the kind of instructions and stuff. Of course, those are already back. You don't need to turn it. Hi guys. How many is this your very first class at UBCC? How many is this your first class ever in college? Okay, this is a little bit. This is your ever first one ever. Okay, this is a little bit older group than my first group. They're quite a bit younger.
Well, to be fair, I actually had a class Tuesday, so it's kind of my second class.
Oh, okay. What I mean, yeah, this is your first term here. How many is this your first term ever? Okay, and how about first term ever in college? Okay. Okay, helps me, guys. This being an 09 class, sometimes I would be probably in the same situation when it came to math when I first started college because I was not a math fan. So everybody's here at 09 too, and that's where you're supposed to be, correct? Yeah, if I could get a piece of paper, you can fold it in half and share it with your neighbor if you want, half piece of paper for each. This is just the way that I'm going to get some contact information from you. I just don't need a whole piece of paper, but if you don't want to share, that's okay. Are you? Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, so on your half sheet of paper, I need your legal name because then when I go looking you up and you go, my husband goes by Benji, but his real name is Robert. And I don't think Robert and Benji is correlated in any way. And so if I were a teacher, I wouldn't know to call him Benji, but then if I looked for Benji because he writes Benji on his paper, I don't have a Benji in my class. So legal name to help me take defendants, nickname, what you prefer to be called, and I don't need, Honey Schnickens or anything like that. I won't call you Honey Schnickens.
Darn
If
it.
you go like by a middle name or by my last name is Benjamin, that's how he gets Benji. I'm glad to call you that. Contact telephone numbers. Don't give your work number unless that's the only way I can get in contact with you. For some reason you call work, they get more suspicious. Is this collected? Why are you calling? Email. The email you would prefer to get information from school. Or if I return papers to you, that sort of thing. That's the email I'd like. And then the last thing, any accommodations and questions. By the way, I apologize. I never write anything out. I almost always type out because I have trimmer and my handwriting is atrocious. So hence the reason why I ask you guys to type too. But any questions you have, either about English composition, grammar, and concerns. If you're here, English is my second language. I actually work, give me any heads up type things. I have a gentleman who English is actually his third language in my first class. So he actually is probably, they always think it's a hindrance. Like, oh, it's my third language and I'm not good at it and this and that. And pretty soon you get their papers, they're like, oh, really? You got the A, everybody else got the C. Grammar, if you have grammar problems, maybe reading problems, need to be seated differently.
Does spelling count?
Huh?
Does spelling count?
I'm going to tell you about spelling because there's a statistic out there. I don't know it's true because 95% of all statistics are kind of made up on the spot anyway, but there's a statistic out there apparently that English teachers are the worst spellers, people who actually teach children or students English, because we get used to seeing so many of the wrong spellings that eventually we're like, is it that way or is it this way? You have to negotiate with yourself as to how to spell that. But I don't spell it. And then anything miscellaneous that you need to tell me, questions, concerns, moans, burns, or drugs, okay? The school has a process online, even though we're not in a lab, so we don't have computers here. You have to turn your assignments into D2L Dropbox. This is your first class, you're going, oh, what? Okay. A lot of times I will have it where you just turn in hard copies, since we meet twice a week. But I still want you to put it into the Dropbox. One, to get used to putting things in the Dropbox. But if I use your paper to cover your own butt kind of thing. I am very new at the Pikes Community College one because I'll tell you a little bit about myself here in a minute, but teach at 2 other colleges and we use Blackboard at those colleges. And so it's a little bit different system, similar concept where you have doc sharing, you have your grade book online, and so as soon as I get familiar with the system, which I'm supposed to have a class on it on Friday, and then I have the weekend to play, I will post all of your assignments online so that if you're absent or whatever, you still have access to what we did and all the, like if I have a handout, it'll go into doc sharing, so you'll be able to just download the handout, and so everything can be accessed remotely if you don't happen to make it here. Okay? So those are some things that I do, but because of that, I need this information. And sometimes electronic stuff doesn't work, and so I keep a hard copy of your addresses and telephone numbers on file until the end of the course. I promise I won't call you and ask you to hang out or anything weird. I won't sell phone numbers and things for. Okay, so everybody has syllabus, right? This is the most generic paper, and we have to hand them out. They said, but the actual syllabus is actually like 7 pages long. And they're like, but we don't want you to print out 7 pages, so the full syllabus with all the rules and regulations will be in doc sharing on D12. But I wanted to give you the first few pages so that you had my contact information specifically, and some of the rules and regulations. But at all the other colleges, I'm Professor Benjamin. You can call me Miss Benjamin, Miss B, Professor if you'd like. I really don't care, just don't call me late for dinner. I like you, so can't do that. That's how you get a hold of me, the Sheryl.Benjamin@ppcc.edu. I can tell you, when you hear what I do and how many organizations I help, I have too many emails. And so, if you are the type of person who wants that immediate response or feedback, there's two best ways to get a hold of me. Call me. I much prefer calls over email. Or text me. I don't mind it. I'll respond to a text. So if you want immediate feedback, not just, oh, I'm just going to tell her I'm not going to be in class next week, so I'll give her an email so that I have that email trail. Call me or text me.
So the number that you have listed here is also a text number?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 719-440-0512. If I happen to answer, and thanks for calling Universal Kempo Karate, or you hear that as the message, my husband and I own a karate school. That is our business, so it's legitimate. Don't hang up and go, holy cow, that's not them. A little bit about the course, and you can read, so I know I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the course description, basically, the things we're going to cover in here, it's kind of threefold. One, composition, 032, which they're now getting rid of anyway, or 03, whatever, 300 series, is like putting together sentences and learning how the different sentences can be constructed, and maybe by the end of the term kind of get really good paragraphs. And then this class becomes, you should be pretty good at paragraphing, and now we're going to start using that and using our knowledge of different writing genres and so on and so forth to construct several types of essays. Everything from rhetorical analysis to reviews, argumentation, so on and so forth. So basically, it's a step up, but it's kind of the basics. So like the skeleton of getting those types of papers together. Okay. And the second piece of it would be a brush up on grammar / mechanics type things that maybe we can fix. And then probably the third piece of it is a little bit of I'm going to call it being able to extrapolate, well, it's actually critical thinking skills is what it is, but it's being able to take readings, different readings, and use it as proof, pull it as proof, and synthesize that in the papers. So we'll have several readings that pertain to different subjects, whether it's an argumentative paper, and so on and so forth, or maybe it's a compare and contrast. And we might compare one person's literature to another person's literature and extrapolate the information and synthesize it into a report, those type of things. So those are the three basic areas that this course, and we stay at a foundational level. So then you should be able to use what you learned here. Now I've practiced it once, now I've practiced it twice, now I can go on and be successful in the radio curriculum. So that's kind of where we're at. Okay? Your two books you should have. Saw somebody had the wrong book, sorry about that. This is the book that our essays will come from. Okay? If I have a reading that I want you to compare and contrast that is not in this book, I will provide it. Or put it in document or what have you. So you will not have to buy anything other than this book and the Everyday Writer. Okay, those are the two texts that you will need to have. We will not read a section this week. Since we have Tuesday off because of the holiday. If they take a Monday holiday, they always take a Tuesday off. I just learned this. That's really nice. Yeah, it is. Well, the reason why, they're like, trust us, the reason why is because all the professors wanted to sign up for Monday, Wednesday classes so that every time there's a holiday, they didn't have to work. And I was like, oh, that isn't a lot of, that's not very fair. And they went, oh, that's why we also take off the Tuesday. Oh, that is fair. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the two books. And so if I don't happen to give if I just give page numbers and forget that it's out of this, all of our readings come out of this book. That's the page numbers. And an everyday writer, obviously, it's not essays. It's just different writing techniques and situations and things like that. Grammar, health, and so on. Okay, so if it's a grammar exercise, you know it's not going to be in the essays book. If you could take a piece of paper and write out those things, that's how I'm taking minutes today. And then I can have your contact information. Okay, so then the next stuff is the next item down after the course is course objectives. And guys, the course objectives are basically you see them and people are like, oh, so what? But really, that's what's telling the state what you should be able to do after you leave this class. When you get your grade, if you got a grade as say an A in it, that means that you are superior at doing these things. And if you get a C in it, then you're average at doing these things. Okay? And so, for example, it says that you can annotate, respond to, and summarize. And if you're not very good at summary, you probably not going to get a full A in the class. You see what I'm saying? So that's what those are for. All of our assignments are meant to hit 2 or more of the objectives. So we develop our assignments so that we hit the objectives. So if you're reading here and you're like, man, I don't know how to use the computer in order to get into Blackboard. That's one of the objectives. Well, then we need to make sure you do, because all of your other classes are going to need to get into that. I think I don't know which ones it is. Something about using technology. Okay? Attendance policy. The rule of thumb in all college courses is that you should be in class at least 90% of the time. We know that, especially in over 16 weeks, things come up. You're here 2 times a week, you're here 32 classes. Actually, 30 because you get 2 off this time. So you're here for 30 classes, and 30 classes, I can't necessarily say I can definitely be here every Tuesday and Thursday. So what happens is you are allowed some absences. I would prefer knowing ahead of time. If I know ahead of time, a lot of time, I've already got next week planned, obviously. You will, not today, but next Thursday you'll have the full calendar of every assignment that is due, with all the major assignments listed on it. You have to adjust it because I didn't realize we weren't coming to class on Tuesday and those types of things, so go to the next Thursday. But if you miss, so you're supposed to be here 90% of the classes, that means that you can miss 30, right? Or 3. 30. You can miss 3. And that would be okay. And would I suggest missing 3? No, because we do things in class that you might not be able to make out for those types of things. You might miss out on those participation points. You won't get the instruction for that particular assignment. But will I fail you if you miss 4? No, I'm not going to fail you if you miss 4 if you're making up your assignments. Yes, I'll fail you if you miss 4 and you didn't get the material. You neglected to make it up. You make a habit of not being here. The school has a policy of a certain amount gives you an automatic drop. I don't, unfortunately, know what that is yet. So I just know the general rule of thumb is you should be here. Having an excuse, everybody has an excuse, but if you tell me beforehand, it weighs a lot higher on my book than telling me after you decided to go to the hookah bar with your friends and not come over here. Grading. The way that I grade is just straightforward. 90% is an A, 60% is a B, anything below 60% is an F. You could probably figure that this class is going to have exactly 1,000 points. Most essays are going to be worth 100 points, like the final. And so most essays are 10% of your grade. Quizzes are a certain amount. So that's kind of how the thing is here. You'll have the exact points when you look at the grade books. So the exact ones for each assignment, because they say like 5%. Oh, you might have got a
No, I'm not sure.
strange
It's
one.
mine, you know.
Nobody liked yours.
It's okay, I put it on yours.
That's okay. So we got some extras there.
Thank you.
I'm pretty specific about feedback and grades. A lot of people think about grades as being just kind of subjective. And what I do is I generally give rubrics for everything that the major grades, especially the papers, so you kind of have the target there already. And so if you already have the target there and you know what it takes to get the A, it's not a subjective thing, it's more objective, saying that these are the things that I'm evaluating your paper on, so that's the grade you're going to get. So if you leave out a thesis statement, you're going to minus X amount of points. Okay, so I'm fairly straightforward with grading. Late submissions. I don't do it's just late, you get a 0, but I only allow 2 weeks. So if a paper is due, it's due when it's due. So if you're absent, email it, get it into the Dropbox, what have you. If drop it off the day before, grab it, give it to a friend, look for a really good friend that remembers to put it in, whatever. If you're late, you're late. You automatically get a reduction. It's not a lot, right? You get 2 weeks, so every day is a certain amount of 2 weeks. And so I just take partial letter grade off until the 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, it's a 0. Sometimes I'll let you to get a few points back. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to work on it. Because, some people, what they'll do is they'll turn something in that's really subpar, just so it can be turned in, and then think, well, can I redo it, Ms. Benjamin? And if it looks like you put the effort into your paper, sometimes they'll say, hey, it didn't look like you got this concept, let's redo it. But we'll have went through your paper so many times between drafts. We'll do a draft, and I'll see the draft, and then we peer review, and da-da-da. So I'll have seen your paper several times. So realistically, if that last paper comes in and it's really, let's face it, crap, then I know that you probably didn't put your best effort into it, so I won't let you do it. But if it really was, you can dismiss the concept or whatever. Sometimes I'll say fix this and return it, and I'll regrade it. Okay? Plagiarism. I think most people are really, really familiar with this, but we have a program called Turn It In. So when you turn your papers in, sometimes they'll say you have to submit it to Turn It In order to get credit. What Turn It In does is I log in and it brings your paper down to me and it says X amount of % was not theirs, or they give me a resource in which to find where it came from. If it comes up and says, 80% of the paper is not their own, even if you're quoting it, sometimes people are like, but there's quotation marks around it. If you're using 80% of somebody else's material, it's not your ideas. Okay, you can. There's a lot of ways around that. Summarizing, paraphrasing, extrapolating just the quotes that really make a lot of sense. And so, this is the class that we're going to learn some of the ways that you can, hey, let's find a way to summarize these things so that it becomes our own work. Okay, so that you're not going to be in violation of plagiarism, because you get to some of the other classes, like I know Mr. Joe, who's the chair for the English chair for he told me stories upon stories of people who were plagiarizing. I guess this one guy was just this huge man, but apparently he had and Mr. Joe was huge if you've ever seen him. He's like here. Apparently the guy's bigger than him. He's calling him huge. That's a big person. I guess the guy grabbed him and said, "What are you doing to me? I'm going to get kicked out of the school." And there happened to be another guy who was even bigger than me. I grabbed him, which I don't. He's like, believe it or not, the guy apparently ended up being a professional football player eventually. But he goes, "What are you doing to Mr. Joe?" He was telling me about it because he literally ruined the guy's chances of staying in the college. But he's like, I didn't ruin it, he did. And that's kind of my attitude too. I didn't ruin your opportunity to make this grade, you did. Okay. So kids always, I say kids, I know you're not a kid, but it's funny because if a person earns an A, they're like, I earned an A, yeah. But if they earn an F, they're like, the teacher right? So I don't earn your F, you do. Okay? Questions about the syllabus? And like I say, it's pretty straightforward. The thing about assessment, I use multiple types of assessment, different writing, the different writing modes when you turn in your major papers, those are considered assessments in English because they show that you can write in different modes and different genres. And then I have some quizzes that you'll take. This class there are no online assessments, and you don't have any standardized tests, so that's nice. Okay? And by the way, this is your calendar. I have it done, it's just not the correct dates anymore because, as I said, I didn't account for they take 2 days off, if they take a day off, and a couple of days, so showing those things. Okay? So that's all the little logistics out of the way. I would have done in the first week, and then we would have done a little 5-minute interview. But rather than do a 5-minute interview, I thought you might want to know a little bit about your instructor, and then we'll go around real quickly, and I'll let you tell about yourselves, and that will be our introduction. And then from then on out, we'll have some time to work. What time do we get out here? 2:30 or 3:45? 2:30. We're already at 3:45, right? Okay. So I'll have plenty of time for the lesson. So again, my name is Ms. Benjamin. I told the last class, I kind of like to tell a progression of what I do because I'm a native of Colorado. So being a native of Colorado, you're like, oh, you're right in your hometown, da-da-da. So I married a military man, and when you do that, you travel, all of a sudden you get all these different jobs and all these different roles and work for all these different organizations, and people are like, man, have you ever slept? So I started off, actually, before I went to college and before I was married, I started off as an apprentice, besides little jobs like working at Free Thieves as a salad prep girl, those little things. I worked for MCI for a while, but I started working for a company called International Media Systems. It was a company that is here in Colorado Springs, down by the Sun Building. They do local commercials and marketing, those types of things, and then some film, art stuff, that kind of thing. And my aunt was a makeup artist. She's actually out of Kansas, but she was a makeup artist, and so she had a couple of gigs there where she was doing makeup. I became her apprentice, and that's how I became affiliated with the company. Being her little stooge going around with the makeup. Well, when you are a makeup artist in this kind of place, when they're filming, what happens is you put on the makeup, you do your job, and then you sit for hours and hours and hours until their makeup's screwed up, and then you have to fix it. But most of your job is sitting, really, and and we didn't have computers back then. I mean, they did, but it's like one Apple computer way in the back of the studio or something like that. So there's no such thing as computers. Never been text messaging, or we still had the dial phones. I'm not old, but that's really what we had. So you sat, and that was really boring. So I started writing my own screenplays because I was so ambitious. And so I started writing a screenplay. You guys familiar with the Kentucky Fried Movie? You're older than Monty Python, you know who that is, right? That kind of humor where it's the little skits, then all the little skits kind of make a movie all together. And probably not the most appropriate material, but it was appropriate for someone at the age that I was. And so I was writing a script about a door-to-door dildo salesman. And my boss comes in, and he goes, "What you writing?" And he steals it from me. And I was like, "Oh crap, no, you try to get it back." And he said, and he just took it and left. And I'm like, if he reads that, I'm in so much trouble. And of course he read it. And I get a pink slip in my box, but he didn't return it for like 3 days, and I had to go back to work. I'm like, I don't really want to go back to work, so just quit it. I ended up going back to work, and pink slip in your box, come see Dan. I was like, oh. So I go see Dan, and he said, okay, completely and totally inappropriate material, but it's funny. How would you like a job as a ghostwriter? I was like, ooh, what's that? Who knows what a ghostwriter is? What is it?
You write stories on behalf of someone else.
Right. So you don't get a lot of credit for it.
Right.
In fact, if you write novels on behalf of somebody else, the ghostwriter's name is usually on the side cover. But So I became a ghostwriter, mostly writing commercials. Some of the commercials I wrote were Coleman Spotlight, some for the Sharper Image, different products that the Sharper Image has. I did write a script. I wrote my own script that I'm the actual author of, called Full Shot, a couple of the others, Full Shot about BMX bike race. So anyway, got the job. The cool thing about it was you either had a contract that you got paid maybe right up front, here, write this, you get $1,300, whatever, or it was every time the commercial plays, you get royalties. And so those were the really cool contracts. You got the royalties contracts because you might not play for 6 months, and then 6 months later you get this royalty check, and you're like, yes, I get to go buy and do whatever. It was pretty cool. So I did that until Dan and his wife decided to part their ways, and so Dan went out to California, and his wife said, if you were hired by Dan, thank you, goodbye. So I kind of lost that job. All good things have to come to an end. I moved on. I went to California for a little while. I thought, oh, I'm going to be this famous director. I write screenplays, we do all this stuff. And then I found out how much drugs and crazy stuff goes on and how hard it really is out there. I went out to college, and of all things, I thought I was going to do well in education. So I had my first degree in English. I got my second, my master's degree in education organization, principal's licensure. I became a dean of students, and then I taught half the time. I taught literacy to K-12, so mostly high school students, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I started off teaching over at Aspen Valley High School. It's an alternative high school, and so that's kind of why I like venues like this, because it's people who either haven't been to school for a long time, or maybe haven't had a job, or have to have. It's not like the whole 100% traditional setting where you're going and you're staying in dorms and that type of thing. So I really like the non-traditional setting. And then I moved, as I said, I was the dean of students for a while, and then because my husband was in the military, moving around, that was good to have education background because you could teach pretty much anywhere. So then I moved into the college realm, and I've been teaching at PRR. I also teach a little bit at Westford College in England. So that's what you have as far as my background. Okay, so lots of stuff in between. As I said, we own a karate school, my husband and I. We own Universal Kempo Karate, which is a strange thing about me. Most people do not expect little English teachers to run karate schools, but I do. And so I have my third degree black belt. My husband has his fourth. My daughter has her second, and my two boys also have their second. So people don't usually know that. And another thing that you probably wouldn't know about a little person like me is I used to shoot the Olympic Training Center up at College, 23 high power rifles. So if I can't kick you, I'll shoot you first. So that's about Miss Benjamin. What I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to stand up, tell us your name, basically what kind of thing you're pursuing, what kind of degree or whatever you're pursuing for a job, and then something that most people may not know about you that you're willing to share. Okay?
I go last.
Can you go last?
Yeah.
Or do you have to make it up? Do you have like the story?
Yeah, I gotta think of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Andrew. Do I need my last name?
No, Andrew's fine.
I'm trying to obtain a 4-year business degree. I'm a 41-year-old single father of 2 kids, so I feel like an idiot back in school, but whatever. I raised my kids only with the hippies, so I had no clue about computers and all this crap. I graduated high school the year they got the green screen apples in.
Yep.
And so I'm struggling, but I'm here, I'm good enough.
This is right where I was. You had to be. I literally wrote the first couple of screenplays on typewriters. How's your weekend?
I'm older than you, so.
Yeah.
I'm a mother. I have a daughter that's in college. She's in her second year of college, and she's the one that's pushing me to come back. I'm also her mother. I'm an artist by profession. I paint. I speak 4 languages: French, English, Italian, German. Being here is very difficult for me, but I think I'll do that.
And what was your name?
Josie Ann.
Josie Ann. Josie Ann the Pussycat. That's how I remember it. By the way, I do this. I'm very weird, but I will figure your guys' name. You're like, but because every 8 weeks at variety change stages. And Westwood have all the karate students. They have all the past students who see you and they're like, hey, Miss Benjamin. If you don't know their name, they're like, and then every 16 weeks here. So yeah, I have a lot of names. I have to do them in line with classes.
My name is Elliot, and I spent 4 months last year in the heart of Africa. So now I want to study international economics and business so I can go back and try to help their situation out there.
Well, international business, maybe.
My name is Alex, and I'm just going to school to go get my business degree. Hopefully someday here. So this is like my 3rd year in college, so I'm struggling with that.
And anything special about you?
Nope.
Where do you work? You work?
Yeah, I work in American Eagle.
American Eagle. Excellent. That's good.
I'm Jen. Something people don't know about me is that I've actually lost quite a lot of my family this year. Recently, I just lost my dad, sadly. And I lost quite a few uncles and aunts. And I am a swimmer. I run track. I throw. I play softball, and I've actually had I was in a little league baseball game.
Very cool. Not the death part, but I'm in the same situation. My dad has 2 to 6 months to learn from cancer.
My name is Kim. I graduated from Air Academy High School, and I want to pursue mortuary science. I know it's weird.
No, it's not. That's what my niece wants.
And I work for a family friend, basically I'm a nanny for an autistic kid.
There's an instructor. She's, I think, mostly over in Centennial. A little gal with red hair. She is a embalmer slash, well, basically mortuary science. I know she does embalming and something.
Pathology.
What's that?
You don't hold your right.
Yeah, there is something to that.
Mortuary science is the I know that's weird.
You want to do? Hey, they need makeup artists too, right?
Makes good money.
By the way, that's one of the reasons I don't wear makeup. If you learn what makeup does to you, you might not wear a lot of it. Go ahead.
I'm Joe. My major in criminal justice and minor in sociology. I cook at cafeterias. I'm working.
Cool.
My name is Kelly. I'm coming here for occupational therapy, criminal justice,
And you're obsessed with the Beatles? There's a cover band that's like really popular right now that plays the Beatles. So I have to ask my daughter. She's your guys' age, and she can tell me who it is. She plays it all the time, so I hear it. I just don't hear it.
My name's Matt. I'm studying to be a paramedic. 3rd year back in college. Dropped out for a year. Last week, so I figured out. Nothing really interesting about it.
Wants to be a paramedic?
Oh.
Paramedic's interesting.
I'm Demar. I'm getting my associates in science, and I like reggae music.
Radio music? Reggae.
I'm Brandon, and I don't know, I'm kind of in an adrenaline junkie, so I like to run and jump off really high things, and I don't know, I like to hit like big jumps on bikes and stuff, so it's kind of fun, but I'm here kind of pursuing like, I want to fly like an airplane or a helicopter, like I don't know, commercial air pilot or something. I'm trying to figure it out still.
So aviation science or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know, I just want to fly something, get up in the air and jump out of it.
my son is he actually is, you have to be 16 in order to get your private pilot license and stuff. He came to us when he was 12 and he said, look, I don't necessarily care about you spent, he's really weird because he likes numbers and stuff like that, but he's like, yeah, you spend $300-400 on birthday parties. Can we just save that money up and get me flying lessons and I'll help out in summer times? And So we literally, he has people spend the night for his birthdays, and he's stuck to it. He hasn't had these ridiculous, you know, crazy parties and things, and he can commercial buy it. Or, well, not commercial buy it. He's not 16 yet, so he has to do his, you can't do your solo flight.
Yeah, he's gonna have like 40 hours coaching pilot or something.
He's in the Civil Air Patrol on base.
Yeah, I'm already like 5-6 hours into this. It's pretty fun flying airplanes and stuff. So.
Cool. And Brandon's my other son's name, not the son that flies. Other son.
I'm Keely, and I'm going to be a zoologist. And I'm an energy dancer. I'm going to this.
Cool. Kaylee or Cal? Keely.
My name is Brian. I just recently got out of the military back in February. And I'm here for, well, I had to pick a major to get my VA money, so I picked business management, but I'm going to go here, knock out some classes, and then go to like UCCS and get finance degree.
Number guy. Not me.
I'm here for physical
I make that to that's I'll remember you.
I'm Matt. I'm trying to get my degree in medical science. Some people don't know about me is I played 65 days worth of Call of Duty. Multiply that by 24, and that's the amount of hours I've spent in my room. So, that's pretty much ready.
Maximilian. Yep. Create some video game one day. Although you said you wanted to do that's my daughter does.
My name's Brandon also. I don't know why I'm in college. I'm just doing this to make my parents happy, really. I just got a brand new job as a beta tester for a computer game, like a week ago. Not to say what video game it is, it's really handy, but that's about it.
My name is Shannon. Where do I start? Because I'm a lot older than most of you guys. I've been married for 23 years. I have an 18-year-old autistic son. Yeah. I was born and raised in Manitou Springs, which is where I'm living again. I got my real estate license about 12 years ago and went to work in my mom's real estate company. Our bookkeeper embezzled money from us and closed our business down. So I've been unemployed. No, darn it. I've been unemployed for over a year and basically taking care of my parents who are aged. Let's just leave it at that. And realized one day that I needed to do something that I was good at, that I could get paid at. And so I have 2 prerequisites I have to finish before I can apply to the nursing program.
Now,
and
so,
I like science fiction.
So you can get together with her to help take care of the autistic son or daughter?
Son.
Son.
Yeah.
And then he can help you out with finances. We had a similar situation at the CPA that we had was agency cut. And so she thought that she could use your payroll money because you collect half the payroll at the beginning and half payroll at the end, and then you only send 1 check out per month. She thought that she'd be able to make it up each month, and then as she kept going behind and behind, pretty soon couldn't even pay our payrolls. She killed herself. And it wasn't just our company; she worked with other companies as well.
My name's Josh. Trying to go for criminology, 2 years here, and then transfer probably CSU Pueblo. And I work at Target right now. That's about it.
And what just stocking? What are you doing at Target?
I cash it right now. Yeah.
Okay. I happen to know a guy that does the whole business.
I'm Dan. I've been working at the Sofamart warehouse for the past 3 years or so. I'm going in for a computer networking degree because I am tired of moving heavy object from A to B and everywhere in between. On occasion I go hunting, and I earned my Showdown on April 14th, 2007. Showdown in Showdown karate.
Cool. That's why I thought I heard my ears would play today.
My name is Han. I'm going to major in business. Yeah, Han, kind of like Han Solo. And yeah, that's about it.
I actually now recognize you from the Sofamart. We bought the sofa set.
Yeah, I remember.
The furniture row. Okay, so there you go. That's the introductions, and I'll try to remember names. Like, you know, you already gave me mine, Han Solo, and you know, I thought you were very kid. And then Josh. All you said was Josh. I can remember. I don't know why I said it. From now on, you're just Josh. That's how you called me.
Oh, it's Joe.
Oh, is it Joe? Okay, now it's gonna go. Oh, I'm Joe. Oh, he's Joe. Kelly. Okay. Let's see. I remember Andrew, and I'll get all your rest of your names here as I start thinking of what to start calling you. All right. A little bit about the. We're gonna go ahead with our first lesson, our major lesson. Feel free to take notes. You don't have to write down every word. But I do have to have some sort of product as your very first official writing sample. This isn't worth, 100 points or anything, but we're going to do this as your very first official paper. And then if I could get you guys to, Andrew, could you do me a favor? Is everybody send your papers, and he will collect all of that half sheet of paper with all your contact information on it? That's how I'm taking attendance, guys, so I have to have it. Yeah. Hopefully, somebody doesn't have a crush on you and sticks their paper in. Somebody else's. You get one of these? Okay, what we're going to work on is your very first essay is going to be a product review. Now, much like I told you when I said if I'm evaluating you on an essay, then I give you a rubric, and the rubric tells you the criteria in which I'm judging your paper on, right? Well, a review is a similar thing. When you decide to judge a product, you have to come up with some criteria. So the genre of writing that we're working in is called an evaluation paper. Okay? So just brainstorm for me, guys. Just say them out loud, or whatever. When you see the word evaluation, what does that mean to you? What else? Facts. So report facts, okay.
Expectations.
There you go.
Results. Value.
There you go. This is the word I want you to see. Value. when we write an evaluation, we're saying what value it has to us. But not in the sense of simple opinion. Because everybody has opinions and they're all stinky, right? They're like behinds, they're all stinky. Okay. We have to show what our values are, and we have to say them up front. So I can't just change my values in order to make whatever argument I want to make. I have to have these values, they have to be set, and I always have to have the values, right? So if I value, for example, freedom, then I started another argument, I'm like, oh, freedom's not that important. Then I'd be wavering, right? Or if I tell a person that I'm going to grade this paper on your thesis statement, and then I read your paper, your thesis statement's fine, but all of a sudden I didn't like your argument, right? Then I lied to you about what I value. Okay? So evaluation is really considering the value of something based on preset criteria rather than just an opinion. And that's where a lot of folks get in trouble, is that we're so used to throwing our opinion out there that we don't look at. We have to have an opinion based on some study, some criteria. So we are going to write an evaluation about a product of your choice. And I don't care what the product is. Okay, you get to decide that. That's what's going to make it kind of fun. But let's kind of talk a little bit about this so that you get an idea of how you are going to go about writing this paper. You see there, and I explained to you that if we go into the marketplace and we find something that we like, then we have to make, we have to decide, well, am I going to get that product or that product? Am I going to buy the Samsung TV with the 1080 DPI, or am I going to buy the what is it, 720? And it's like that 720 better be like $45 because there's all these 1080s out there. I want that one. Ooh, LED, that's really cool. Oh, and now they've got the Aquinos. I want that. Okay, and so as the features start getting better and better, we comparatively buy and we decide which one's value. Then we say, oh, that Aquios, that's $3,000, whereas the LED that's just as good, I really can't tell the difference, only $1,400. I don't value that Aquios technology quite as much. So I'll just go ahead with this $1,400 product. Okay? So we make those judgments all the time. We evaluate all the time, but now we just have to put that in writing. Okay? Now what I want you to do is, I don't want you to make this paper a compare and contrast. So I don't want you to, Samsung against this, because it'll be too big to do both the evaluation and the comparison. We'll do a comparative paper, but you can't do both. What I want you to do is, I just want you to pick a single product and then look at it for, this is what I would expect out of this product. Does it have those expectations or not? For example, if you read a science fiction book, you kind of already have an idea of your expectations of a good science fiction book, right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't meet that expectations, you read the first 3-4 chapters and go, okay, I can't do this, right? Same thing. You go to Best Buy, and right away we start eliminating that. You're not doing that one, not doing that one, not doing that one, whatever. And then you just evaluate one or two products. So that's what you're going to do, is you're going to take one product and you're going to evaluate it for what it has. Let's see. You get a journal engine. How about motorcycles? Okay? So I'm going to evaluate a motorcycle today. And I'm going to say in my paper, I'm going to set my paper up, and you can see how I suggest you setting it up there. In the first paragraph is always our introduction. And so you would set up with, if I had an introduction, I would set up with a hook. You don't always have to have a hook. The hook is the only thing that's really optional. And then I suggest to you that you give background information. Well, the background information that I'm talking about in your introduction is, basically you want to tell your readers why it is that you came about wanting to evaluate this product. So don't say because of our new freshman English class. That's lame. What I'm saying is, like, okay, I'm in the market to buy a new motorcycle. and I would really like a motorcycle that has X qualities. Okay? So basically how you came about the decision to evaluate that product. Maybe you are a master chef and you're going to evaluate a new grill. That kind of thing. So, my profession is I'm a master chef, and I would really like this new Z2000 supercharged grill is out, and I'd like to evaluate that. So, set up the reasoning as to why you're evaluating, so your background, and then finally your thesis. Okay? Now, I want you to take a note that, who knows what a thesis statement is? How many of you use a thesis statement? Okay, not many of you. A thesis statement, it's a Latin word actually, and it means put, place, position. This is really the one we're looking at, is position. What position are you planning on taking? Okay? And you clearly state in your paper what your position is. That's a thesis statement. Okay? It's the backbone of your essay. It also helps readers understand what it is your reason for writing. Okay? So it's two things. It's an organizational tool, and then it's also because it tells people this is how I'm setting up my paper, and it's also a tool for setting your purpose for writing. Okay? Now, in your thesis statement, I'm going to tell you that there's two ways of using a thesis statement. A thesis statement in this class and purpose for this class, every single one of your papers, bar none, will have an explicit, right there, thesis statement. I have to be able to highlight your thesis statement. Okay? However, in a quiz, you might get a question that says, every paper, every story, everything ever written absolutely must have a thesis statement, true or false? And the answer is false. You can't have an argumentative paper that has an implicit or implied thesis. In this class you can, because I want you guys to get used to writing the thesis statement and developing it and becoming better writers and using it as an organizational tool. But in the scheme of things, when you become a better writer, then eventually you can imply that thesis, and then people would intuitively, by reading what's going on in your paper, be able to say, oh, this is the position they're taking. Okay? So in our class, though, for the purpose of our class, you will have a right there explicit thesis. Sometimes a thesis has a thing called projected organization. Okay? Some people call it subpoints. I've heard it called subpoints. What projected organization is that you tell your reader up front, this is how I'm organizing my paper. So, I'm evaluating my motorcycles. I come up with my criteria, and I say, in order to evaluate, evaluate my motorcycle, I'm going to look at the following three categories. For motorcycles, what would we look at for evaluating a motorcycle?
Speed.
Okay, performance.
Durability.
Style. I like that. Price points might be because of different features, so I don't usually say that.
Durability. Or
Performance
quality.
maybe. How about safety? How about safety features? Okay, so I'm going to evaluate my motorcycle on performance, style, safety features. Do I have to have 3? No. I could have 2. 1's probably not so great. Unless I just want the safest motorcycle out there no matter what it has, okay? But 3 is a nice number for any essay because it gives you the perfect formula for a 5-paragraph essay, okay? So that's why I like 3. Can I put 4? Sure, then it'll be a 6 there. Can I put 9? Sure. But 3 is a good start.
So how would you approach it, like on the performance? The speed or?
Yeah, performance might be speed, might be gear ratio. Hey, Mr. Hopping. Well, if I was looking at performance, what kind of
lighting?
Any performance thing. So, you know, like, you know, is it going to have certain shots that are maybe help me go up higher? Is it going to, yeah, so any performance. And you guys don't have to do motorcycles. I'm giving you one. Okay. So if I was looking for performance area, and I'm going to give you another, I'm just using motorcycles for this very quick, and I'll give you another one that might be easier to write down. You know, style. If I'm evaluating it for style, and I'm looking at a Honda, and we think of style, okay, the perfect motorcycle for most people is probably like a Harley or a Cross Rider, one of those, right? So if I'm looking for style, I'm probably not going to pick a Honda, maybe a Goldwing. It's a little bit stylish for the older guys that just want to do a cruising bike, right? But maybe you're talking about, hey, the style of this, you know, it's your opinion and what you expect. So if you expect a certain luxury, for example, and then you get a Honda, then the Honda is not going to have that luxury. And so the style is going to be very plain. You're not going to get, you know, you're not going to get all the accessories. So if I'm talking about style, maybe I'm talking about accessories. Maybe I'm talking about, you know, like I say, luxury compared to like. And obviously, if you get something like a chopper or something, it's all about stuff. It's what you want. So again, we're not comparing and contrasting. We're just saying, okay, I'm evaluating the Honda motorcycle for performance. Well, for a fairly inexpensive thing, it performs like most other motorcycles. The speed, you know, it'll go between this fast and that fast. The durability, style. Not so stylish, but then I don't mind beating it up. You know, it doesn't have all the leather stuff and all of this, but you know, it's functional. And then safety features. I was looking at Car and Rider magazine and found out that it ranks, you know, 34th on safety. They found problems with the gas tank blowing up. They found this. All of a sudden, safety goes down. Understand? So, whatever. I don't know. I'm picking on Honda. I don't know. Okay. So you have your hook, you have your background, your thesis, with your projected organization. So guess what? In evaluating motorcycles, I have decided to establish the following criteria. Performance, style, safety. Guess what? I now know you're evaluating, I know what you're evaluating for, and now you can start your essay. Right? So that's your projected organization. Now you see paragraph 2 says, discuss item number 1. I discuss performance. And only performance. I do not discuss how rad those fire flames on, you know, that you can get custom done is in performance. Because that has nothing to do with performance. I'm not going to talk about how I can get this size wheel compared to that kind of wheel unless I'm talking about that the bigger wheel will give you different performance. So performance is the only thing I can talk about. Talking about, can I erase this, by the way? Because they don't need enough. Okay. So, I'm on paragraph 2. I'm only talking about performance. This is what I get from novice writers or writers who haven't written a long time, maybe somebody who doesn't like to write a lot. How many of you guys, you just start writing because your teacher's like, you have to at least have 3 pages? Just write. Okay. Don't do that. Less is more. Being able to write succinctly. By the way, I've had professors who say 10 pages minimum, and I've turned in 8 really good pages and got 97%. We take out 3% for they should have been a little longer. So what? I said what I wanted to say. Okay, when you get into the real world, nobody's going to tell you you got to write 10 pages. You get to your job. If I don't have 10 pages, my goodness.
Actually, when you get a real job, they say, tell me what it says.
Yeah. So I'm not looking for number of pages. I'm looking for quality of writing. Okay. So I'm on paragraph 2 after the introduction. I can only write about performance, and when I only write about one subject, that's called paragraph unity. you can write out paragraph. That's the symbol for paragraph. So this is a vocab word. You think I wrote it up there? Probably on a quiz. Paragraph unity simply states that, what does the word unity mean? It means together. It also means one. So how many subcategories can I have in a paragraph? One. Ding, 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 ding. I can only talk about one guiding topic, one subtopic, period. If I want to talk about something else, I have to create a new paragraph. Okay? Now, here's the caveat to that. Then I get people who are talking about performance, and they're like motorcycle gurus, and all of a sudden I have a 7-page paper just about performance, but it was one paragraph. Okay? Well, this is where you can use paragraphing to kind of go to subcategories. So you've seen outline where it has one, or the Roman numeral 1 like this. It has A, B, C. Okay, well my big thing is performance, my overarching idea. But then maybe I would talk about sprockets. And then I would, so if it's going to be a really long paper, this would be a paragraph, that would be a paragraph, that would be a paragraph. So I'd have extra paragraphs. And you can do that. Okay? I'll talk about that a little later. So paragraph unity states that I can only have one subtopic or topic. Okay? Now, if I write my topic, what does every single paragraph have to have? A topic sentence. Okay? Now, a topic sentence does not have to be the first sentence of every paragraph. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Just like the introduction, you can have that optional hook. You can have that transition sentence to make things flow. But I should be able to, within the first sentence or two, maybe 3 at the most, be able to read and find out by some sort of guiding sentence that this is the topic you're talking about. So maybe I would say speed junkies are really into performance. So then I would say the Honda motorcycle is rated, has high rate, is rated number 12 in performance, according to X and X magazine. You just told everybody that performance is really important to you, and then you're telling everybody, I'm talking about the Honda motorcycle and performance, and so I know that that entire paragraph is going to be about the Honda and performance issues. Okay? And then same thing for style, same thing for safety. Okay? And then my final paragraph, paragraph 5.
Okay, you said that the first thing for paragraph unity is a topic sentence. What
Not paragraph unity. Paragraph unity means it's just one topic and only one topic only.
Okay,
but
so
then to have
you said
paragraph.
a topic sentence and then
okay.
what
topic,
is supporting?
Then what else? Yeah. Topic sentence. Then what else do you need after a topic sentence? A body, so supporting evidence. And depending on how detailed you want to get, I'm going to tell you most 5-paragraph essays, you're looking at each paragraph being between 5 and 12 sentences. That's about an average. If I have 13, are you going to? No, I'm not going to. Oh, you have 13, you're getting an F now. If you have, if you have 4, you probably can develop your paragraph better. And that's called adequate paragraph development. So if you ever see this thing for me, it says inadequate paragraph development, that means that you didn't put enough supporting evidence. There was a lot more that you could have said. Now, there's a lot, and the other caveat is that you could have said a heck of a lot more. You could write an entire paper just on performance. That's not what we're trying to do here. So keep it short, keep it just, here are a few details. Okay, so then you have supporting evidence, and what's the final thing you always have to have on every paragraph?
Conclusion.
A subtopic conclusion. So if it's a topic, so I call it subtopic because those are subtopics, so a subtopic conclusion. So just a brief thing saying that we're moving on to our next, so because performance is so important to me, or how about this? Honda seems to meet most safety standards, most performance standards. That would be fine. It's just a very succinct thing to say. Okay? And then after you have your body paragraphs, what's your last paragraph? Conclusion. Now, in this type of paper, you're going to see a slightly different kind of conclusion than you would in maybe some other like narrative pieces, in that this type of conclusion, most conclusions you don't bring outside or information that you haven't already totally talked about. But in an evaluation, your last paragraph still sums up what you're saying, but it gives an overall, basically, judgment call. So this is where you say, Honda did well in the categories of performance and safety. It seems to be average with the rest of the motorcycles that I've been looking at. However, style is really lacking, and I've got a girlfriend, and I'd really like to have something a little bit more luxurious or whatever. Okay. That's where you can put your opinion. Okay. I give it 3 stars, or maybe I'll look further and see if there's a better buy for me, or hey, what happens if my motorcycle is really, really good in performance and safety? I might still recommend it. I might say, yeah, for the average rider, this is going to be a fine machine. It can work a little bit on style, but it's functional. That could be my last opinion. Or maybe it didn't pass in all categories. You're like, yeah, stay away from Honda. Okay? Or maybe it passed with flying colors, and you're like, for the price, you really ought to go with Honda rather than going with a Goldwing, because the Goldwing is just, an overpriced toy or whatever. Okay? So that's where you give your opinion. So it's one of the very few essays that you can actually add information into the conclusion that you didn't have the body to do. Okay? I did say that this was due September 4th, thinking that we were going to be here September 4th. It is Thursday, September 6th that this is due. Rough draft. I would like it typed, double spaced. Okay? Thursday the 6th, so instead of the 4th, because we're not going to be here on that Tuesday, so we don't meet the next time. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
Now, would you like MLA cutting on the...
It should be MLA stuff. So if you are familiar with MLA, which you should be, because that's what they taught in high school. I understand you don't know MLA, so you're just going to... Right now, we'll talk a little bit about MLA, but 12 font. It says between 12 and 16. You know what? If you keep it, I'm going to tell you, if you keep it 12 font, something like Times New Roman, which I know is the default, but you keep it that way, and you double space, and you write your page numbers on and write your name on each page, that's pretty close. And then we'll talk about details after that. Make sure to put a unique title on it. Make sure to put your name. I hate getting papers and then I don't have a name. The cover page if you'd like, or at least a heading. No, you can program it. If you go up in Word and you go to paragraph, it'll say, you click paragraph. Okay? If you don't know, you can do it manually, but you know much about computing?
I'll figure it out, but...
If I can log in, I just got my S number today, so, but if you go and you click in Word, you click paragraph, and then it'll say spacing, and what you want to do over here, it'll say something like 0 or auto space, da da da. You want to click the down arrow for it to say 0, so that there's 0 space, and then it'll say at least, and then there's a drop down menu to say single, double, 1.5, and it'll give you a whole bunch of triple spacing. It'll give you some options. And then just click down and you click double. Safari is what is on our phone. Yeah, it would be Word, any Word program. Yeah, you should have Word, right, Microsoft?
You have to get it in Mac. It's all complicated in Mac.
I have all these, Greg. Okay, well, good luck, and as I said, rough draft. Hey, one thing in rough drafts is every computer has spell check, so you should at least not have a bunch of red squiggles. Go into the Mac tonight. No, you want to go on the red squiggles. Yeah, go into the Mac. They'll help you. And then go.
You want a copy of this?